Hi guys, welcome to a new segment in film learning in Corona times. I'm going to be introducing you to some of the magicians who work usually behind the scenes in bringing a director's vision to the screen. We all know of stars, we all know of some directors, but we don't know much about these behind the screen magicians who weave their magic wands to create cinematic magic. So I'm going to be talking to a lot of technicians, as we call them, DOPs, first ADs, line producers, production managers, people largely drawn from the lovely people that I personally am working with. So to begin with, I'm going to be starting with two interviews, one today and one tomorrow, with writers. And beginning with a dear friend of mine, Deepak Venkateshan. He has written loads of stuff. You'll find out what he's written on IMDb. What I love about Deepak is that he's meticulous. So he's going to talk to you about some of the visual tools that he's using to build a plot. He's going to be talking about how you can approach multiple genres when you write. He's also going to be giving you some very interesting insight into his life as an IT professional and how he transitioned into the life of a writer. So over to Deepak, and hope you have fun in this new segment. We have my very good friend and my very good partner in writing, Deepak Venkateshan. Hi Deepak.
Hi everybody. Hi Prasanna.
Deepak has also been been working from home because of Corona. Is that something that you're used to as a writer, Deepak?
See, like Arvind Kejriwal, I have even days and odd days. So, like usually what happens is the day I want to write, I only write. The day I want to go for meetings, I go for meetings. So even odd days is also applicable to us. But as a writer, your life is very lonely, right? So you end up writing at home. Everybody across the world is right now seeing what we see every day. Get up at home, stay in the same home, write in the same home. So yeah, for writers, I don't think it's a new world. For everybody else, it's a new world.
And something interesting about your chair, you were telling me. I wanted to record that.
So okay. The thing is this. It looks like a really imposing Bond villain chair. But the reason is, I was talking to Prasanna earlier about this, that a lot of us writers have back issues, okay, because we are always sitting, right? It's a sedentary job in that sense. The mind is racing, but the body, alas, is doing nothing. So we all have lower back, neck issues. So this chair was we went to carpenters, so a bunch of writers in Bombay. We decided that this is too much. We really have too many back issues. So we researched on the net, and there are a lot of writer forums where people talk about back issues. Yeah, writers talk about the most asinine things. They don't talk about writing only. They also talk about shit like back of chairs and all that. So we talked about it. We found a chair. So we realized that it should be a wooden chair with a straight back. So yeah, this imposing chair is because of that.
The most important advice ever given by one writer to another.
Honestly telling you, it's a very important thing. People may think it's very silly, but I'll tell you, chairs matter a lot.
Deepak Venkateshan having your back as a writer. So, Deepak, one tip as a director: look at the camera.
Oh yeah. I know. Sorry.
I think a lot of guys tuning into this would be interested to know that Deepak is the typical success story of an underdog IT guy who gave up all his wealth.
So it's not an underdog story, okay? Underdogs means they come from rags to riches, right? So I went from riches to rags. So you have to understand that it is a reverse underdog story. If you want to become a writer or you want to become a director or anything in the film industry and you are working in the IT space, please understand. I'll give this as an example. I used to work in Andheri East, live in Andheri West. These are two areas in Bombay. Bombay is cut up. For people who don't know Bombay is cut up through a railway line. So part of the same suburb becomes East and West. I used to live in Andheri West. The film industry largely is in Andheri West and the western suburbs, and East is where I used to work. So I used to tell my friends and my wife and everybody that on the middle of the flyover that connects East and West is a line. On that side of the line, I was a CTO. I'd get tea served at the room. I'd have huge reportees. I had a big boss. I had everything. I had a cabin, the corner cabin, the view, everything. I crossed that line, that invisible line. I was a struggler. Nobody gave a fuck to me. I would have to wait for meetings. I'd have to do cold calls. I'd have to talk to people. They would talk down to me. I'd have to listen to all that. That's first step. Understanding that there's this invisible line. If you guys are going to quit jobs, because it's all very fanciful, right? First thing is, remember, on the first, you'll not get that SMS, that lovely, beautiful SMS that says your account has been deposited with so much money, right? You will never get it. But you'll get great other pleasure. You'll get great joy when you write something new, when you do something, when you see that little sparkle in people's eyes, when you're narrating your story or when they're reading it. So yes, there is great, great rewards, but there's also struggle. You have to understand that there's a huge struggle. So, you'll have to be aware that the success is internal. It's not going to be that your photo is going to be topified on every wall. Okay, the actor always gets that. So the writer is always somewhere as a line in the, it's a pleasure that you will get, the internal pleasure.
So he's able to generate plot. And as a writer, that's very, very important, right? You need to generate plot, scenes. So Deepak, a little insight into, is that an intuitive process only?
So what I do is a lot of tech tools help me. Like I do a lot of flow charting. Okay. I do a lot of story arcing. So what happens is, I don't essentially plot down a story in a bullet point, or I write my story. Yes, I write a treatment. I write a 30-page, 40-page treatment at times. Wow. All my directors can tell about it, how much they hate reading my long stories. But I also plot it. This, if you can see this, this is like you can ignore the story or whatever it is. It's just that I try to do something like this. I go from beginning to inciting incident to an obstacle to the midpoint to an obstacle to a climax to an end. I use this because it helps me understand what an arc looks like, what should it look like, what happens, the color coding, everything is because I do it. It helps me. So you will have to find out what helps you.
What is the red? What is the black? What is the...
Reds are important points. These are points that will, for me, they are trigger points to subplots, to B plots, to C plots. Blue points are points that are very emotional, emotive, that will need further researching, that will need further writing in the screenplay. So I remember them. Doing a movie which has got too many characters, which has got too many arcs, or I'm doing a series which is very complicated, which has huge number of characters. I need, like, you're trying to build a Game of Thrones in your head. How do you build it? Yeah. For me, I build it the old engineering way. I go back to flowcharting. I go back to structuring. I do it pictorially. Like I will show the amount of tools I use are really funny. I'll show you another tool which is very helpful for me.
What is this?
I use another tool called Mindly. So these are all tools that I use. These are all, see, for me, pictorially explaining a story becomes very easy. So I essentially use all these tools and I build these tools in my head, and from them story comes out. So you can do a flow charting, you can do circles. For example, this circle. Each circle pops out. What's the love interest?
Wow.
What will they do? Okay, I go back to the main story. Then I go to enemy. Who is the enemy? What is happening? What are they doing? So each of them I build up again. So what happens to me is I am blowing up the story out, and each part of the story, I'm getting it out in my head clearly. See, I told you, as I told you guys before, I am not very good at handwriting. My handwriting is the worst in the world. Okay, and I'm a nerd. So what rocks your boat? If you think writing rocks your boat, write it out. If you think it's using tools that rock your boat, please use tools. I think there are tons of tools. And these tools just, like, see, for me, building a story is very easy. The enemy, the love interest, the dealers, the men, the genesis of the trade, the partner, the alibi, the product. So now this idea suddenly has become compartmentalized in a way, right? In a certain way, it's also become breakable into chunks. Now each chunk I can go and work on. And each chunk, I decide what I want to do with it. What do I do with it? Why is it coming up? What has happened for it? So now, as I build this up, it's all becoming a story in my head.
I think, Deepak, it's really generous of you to have shown this to all the students and film buffs. Even guys, this is the first
the tools that I use are very simple tools, guys. Yeah. I mean, I'm being very honest with you, Prasanna. These are tools that are available. PowerPoint, Word, Excel.
I think what I love about what Deepak has just shown is that he has used, he's merged his passion for writing with his background of IT, and he obviously has got a structural brain like I do. We are coming from an academic background in that sense, but he's merged that to better his craft and his passion of writing. So I think whatever tools you have access to, I mean, these are the tools that he's comfortable with. But if you, like he said, if you want to write, you want to squiggle, draw, doodle, make the tools your own. And this is the first time I'm seeing these tools. Thank you, Deepak, for that. There are so many myths about a writer's life, myths about writers. So can you break one or two myths about writers?
Don't intellectualize. Writing is a gig. It's a job. It's a job like what your father did or what your grandfather did. Wow. It's a job like every other job. It is nothing else. It's just writing. I have a daughter who believes I do nothing and keeps disturbing me. I have a dog, I have a cat, and a wife who works in a very senior job and thinks my job is nothing. They all disturb me, and yet I write at home. Because the idea is to write. It is not to intellectualize. It's a project. It's work. It's discipline. Get up at a certain time. Get to your computer at a certain time. Write. It will flow. The minute you start intellectualizing about this writer's block, this mythical idea of, I am writing and it is something spectacular, it is not. Go read up on Murakami's writing schedule. Go read up on Michael Connelly's writing schedule. Michael Connelly has written maybe 65 plus books.
Yeah.
Read up on his writing schedule. He gets up at a certain time, makes a certain snack, makes a certain breakfast, goes to his computer, turns it on, writes.
I think Spielberg also, I've never found Spielberg intellectualize or James Cameron intellectualize or
exactly, because honestly speaking, it's a job. I mean, the first thing that we all should be very grateful for, if you are being a writer and if you're being paid for it, is that you are doing what you want to do. It's I think a basic dream of every writer, and I believe in that. I think we should explore every genre. Genre is something that films have, right? I mean, we classify, we categorize things into, but it's finally a story. You're telling a story of a human. You're telling a story of human drama. You're telling a story of people, right? You're telling their identity, their redemption, their journey, their life, their traits, their failings, right? I agree that there are different styles of writing it, but I think as a writer, we should explore every style. I meet so many young writers in Bombay, particularly Bombay and even in other parts of the country, who are like very fixated on the fact that मैं ये लिख सकता हूँ. I'm like, how do you know that? True. Explore, because if we all have something inside us that we want to tell, right? It's finally a story that we want to tell.
What you're saying is basically approach it from the human angle, and then genre just becomes a kind of an expression of that particular story.
Completely. I believe that because if you look at Star Wars, which is again a big reference film for me, and I keep constantly referring to it.
Yeah.
Star Wars is about a boy who wants to become a Jedi. It is nothing else, right? Everything else, the large planet, Death Star, they're all conjecture. They're all adding up. The visual treats, the narrative segues, the plot B's, the plot C's. Plot here, main narrative is only one. A man who wants to become a Jedi warrior realizes he has a sister, he has a family, and the galaxy's worst man is his father. I mean, it is human drama, but people make it something else, right? So yeah.
True. What do you wish that you knew when you were starting out that you know now?
Don't write for only orders. Write for yourself. Write as much as you want. Don't worry about the English. Don't worry about the grammar. Don't worry about how you are writing it. Worry about the structure, the arc, the story. Constantly worry about it. People will read through bad grammar if the story is engaging. People will read through bad English if the story is engaging. They will not read a greatly well-written Shashi Tharoorish English if the story is bad. Okay? The focus on the story. That's what a writer is called for. He or she is not called for, because we are all writing in English, but we are writing for Hindi, we are writing for Tamil, we are writing for different languages. I have never been told, sir, aap itna beautiful English use karte ho. Everybody who's told me, told me, why do you use large words? Don't use large words. So understand, they are not interested in the words, they're interested in the arc, they're interested in the character. Ye banda kya kar raha hai? What is this journey about? What is this film about? What is this story about? So write that way. Don't get fettered down by inferiority complexes. We all have complexes, right? We think our English is not good, or improvise on your storytelling. Just write every day.
great writers. I have read somewhere, Deepak, that writing is all about rewriting.
I'll use a little anecdote, and I love this director, so I'm going to use this guy's reference. His name is Shimit Amin, and I stand behind Shimit Amin's advice. But Shimit Amin said that somebody's invested money in this film. Somebody's invested money in this idea. 300 people are going to work on this idea. You can't have the ego of thinking you're so important that you're important than the remaining 300 people involved in the project. I think I honestly buy that. And I stand behind that thought. You really cannot think, your ego cannot be that big that you think, "Main likha hu yaar, nothing is better than this." There are people bigger than this. There are a lot of people working on a project. Somebody's gotten the money. Please have respect for all of them. Yes, they may not have your intellectual quotient, but have emotional quotient to understand that the whole industry will collapse if that shit happens. Fight. If you believe your idea is right, fight. I'm not saying don't fight. Don't be subversive. Don't be submissive. If it's logical, if the director or a producer or anybody is not making sense, argue, debate, but don't hold it back just because you have ego. Kill ego, because it's stupid to say, "Hey, मैंने लिख दिया boss, मैंने लिख दिया तो खत्म." That's rubbish. Okay. I have done versions for directors just to prove them wrong. By the way, I'm telling this to Prasanna also. Just to prove them wrong, I've done a version. Because they have gone on a path, I've realized that the path is wrong. I've gone. I've written a couple of pages. Extra pages are okay. Write it. When they'll come back, they'll say, "Yaar, ye actually work nahi kar raha. Let's go back to the old one." So it's okay. It's perfectly okay. But don't have ego. I mean, don't really think that you are larger than the whole. The whole is everybody working on the movie.
The film is always bigger than all of us.
Yeah, definitely.
Bigger than all of us. And Deepak, thank you so much. It's extremely generous of you to share with your.
Thanks, Prasanna.
Very generous of you, Deepak. It just shows that you are as much a learner as me.
Everybody come in, because we all have stories to say. We all have work to do. So come on in, please, everybody.
Yes. Thank you so much, Deepak. And
thanks, Prasanna. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, man.
Thanks. Have a great day.
This was an amazing insight into Deepak's life as a writer. Very organized, very professional, very structured, and hoping to bring you more insights into my friends, my teammates, in different departments as the time goes. See you soon.